The second drill that we do in teaching throwing mechanics with a towel is called the step hips throw towel drill. And we're going to do the same mechanics as we will with hips throw, but we're going to add the front foot step, a weight shift with that front foot step, and then we're going to make sure our front elbow does not lift too high. So let's watch the whole drill, and then I'll go back and illustrate and explain it. So here's the drill in action. Step, hips, throw. And I give those commands when I teach the drill. He does not do these on his own. So we'll go back to the front and watch it again. Step, hips, throw. Okay? So the important part obviously is the first foot step. And when we step with the first foot, we want to make sure it's no farther than 6 to 8 inches. And as you can see here, we're using the quarterback stride stick to help us monitor that visually. So when he starts, his back toe is going to be across from the back of the stick, and his front toe is going to be either equal to or slightly behind this piece of tape that I have on the stick. And this stick is 2 feet long, all right? And so this gives us a good idea. And when he starts, we want his feet to be right under his armpits, and that's a good base for being able to generate ground force through your hips to maximize the hip rotation speed that you can generate. So his first step, he's going to turn his toes straight out, and you can see that he doesn't take any more than 6 to 8 inches. Now I call it a step, but oftentimes I'll use the word just turn your front toe out, and that will reduce the distance that the quarterback will step, because a lot of times when you stay step, they end up with their foot outside the stride stick somewhere over in here, okay? So sometimes changing the word to just say turn your foot out. In this particular instance, you notice that Caleb's foot is not perfectly straight. We would like a toe to be perfectly straight toward the target, and the reason being is his hips are going to rotate to get square to the target. But if they encounter your foot at an angle, then they stop rotation short of that. And so in essence, your hips are pointing wherever your front foot is pointing. So when that happens, he would then have to lean his upper body to the left to get perfectly square to the target. And obviously we don't want to do that. The other thing is as his hips rotate and they stop, wherever that front foot is, if it's pointing over to the left a little bit, like you can see his thigh and knee are following his foot, then those hips are going to start to decelerate. So actually going to decelerate his hips and decelerate his upper body and his arm by not having that front foot toe straight. So that's an important thing that you want to watch for when he steps. The second part of that with the step is the weight transfer. So let's put an arrow on his spine, and then let's watch when he steps and he hits the ball of his front foot, because we want the weight on the ball of that foot, and we want a front knee bend right over that weight, which is the ball of the foot. But notice how much his spine has moved forward. So that's the weight shift that we'd like to have, because when we throw a football, this is the axis, this weight-bearing ball of front foot with a bent knee is the axis around which our hips are going to rotate, okay? So it's really important we got a good stable axis that allows us to rotate our hips smoothly, aggressively, but all the way to the front, okay? And that weight shift with the spine allows that to happen. So let's now go back and watch his hand separation. So when his hands separate, the minimal amount you can raise this elbow, the quicker you're going to be able to take this back hip and turn it to the front side to throw the football. If we raise it up here in this chicken wing thing, then it has to come all the way back down here and tuck against his body, and that takes time. But right where Caleb has it now, he can simply tuck that arm against his side, and that back hip will come out quickly, which we'll see here in a second. So we want to make minimal raising of the front arm, okay? The other thing, when he separates here, is we want to make sure that his hands separate, that elbow stays at armpit height. I've explained in other videos how important that is, because that loads the arm up right, and that keeps the shoulder safe from pulling your arm in a direction that the shoulder doesn't usually operate. Okay, so here he's stepped, and then we're going to say the command hips, and he's going to turn his hips. And we did this as the same as hips throw drill. So we've already learned to do this because we preset him in that position in hips throws drill. So what you can see here is you can see his back hip rotating while his hand stays back. So when he stops, this hand needs to be behind his head in order to create hip-shoulder separation. So you see that his hip and shoulder are separated. And if I put up the bones, you can see this hip, this shoulder, and this hip are at an angle, which shows that they are now separated. Okay. The next phase is we're going to say throw, and when we throw, this pec is going to pull his arm forward, then his elbow is going to fire and throw the towel. Okay. So we're going to go hips, throw. You notice when he finishes, his posture is nice and tall. He's balanced. His weight is still over the ball of his front foot because his knee is bent, and the knee's bent allows the hips to rotate at max velocity. Okay? So let's go back, run it one more time. Step, hips, throw. And that's the step, hips, throw drill number 2 in the towel drill sequence.